Hey YouTube, sorry I've been putting videos up a lot, but I've been sick and everything. Anyway, so I've got two things I'm going to talk about today. I've been actually given a couple requests, but a lot of them are big ones, so I'm just going to try to spin this down a little bit, especially since I don't want all my videos to be more than 8 minutes long. So, first thing I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about it's a request by Borderline Grimm. They want to know whether or not I think books and video games are going to replace each other. Like Heavy Rain for the PS3. That's sort of like a virtual book from what I hear. I don't have a PlayStation 3, so I haven't played it or anything. I don't really play a lot of games anyway on the PlayStation. Like I had a PlayStation 1, but after that I sort of dropped out of Sony stuff. So I've seen stuff of the game though, and it looks pretty cool and very interactive. But that's kind of the difference between a book and a video game, is that while video games are very interactive, books are not. Books, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's no side plots, there's no customization of characters by the reader or the person, the consumer of the product, in this case a book or a video game. So I'm thinking that while it is going to be kind of like that for some games, and while Heavy Rain did seem to be a huge hit for the PlayStation, I'm thinking that it's not going to take over completely, because for one thing, Heavy Rain was all about you doing the stuff. And if you couldn't perform some of the actions, or if you couldn't figure out how to do anything in the game, I'm not sure how exactly it worked out. It looked pretty straightforward from what I've seen, but if it was some sort of mystery thing or whatever like I thought it was, then I'd imagine there'd be some hard moments in there, difficult things. And I can imagine that, like in a book, you would assume things, and then you try to jump to the conclusions and then go from there. But you know, in a game, you're supposed to do all this stuff, and they're relying on your ability to come up with this stuff. Meanwhile, if you just read the books because you like the surprise at the end, then it's going to be hard to get through the whole thing if you're just going to go by everything that they tell you and not go on a limb or whatever and try to figure it out by yourself. So I imagine it's going to be kind of hard to take over completely for that thing. Although I can imagine, kind of like with the iPad, how they're going to possibly stop. They're going to sort of slow down with books and start making virtual things like that. And of course, the internet is a very good place to find tons of free stuff to read, and much of it is very good stuff. So yeah, I'm saying that I'm probably not going to take over. Like, video games are probably not going to do what would be assumed, since Heavy Rain is now out. But I'm not going to suggest that books are going to stay as strong as they have been. I mean, they're sort of dwindling a bit, especially like because people choose to play video games over reading a book. In fact, I spent all day playing a video game, and I have a book I would like to read, but I'd rather have played that game today. Anyway, so I'm thinking that while there are a lot of very cool games out, and a lot of them have a solid storyline similar to a book, it's not going to be the same, and they're not going to be taking over for anything. So that's like all that you're thinking would be for that. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it's going to work out. So that's all I can really say about that. Alright, my next request was from Borderline Grimm, and they were asking me about how rappers should express themselves to children. And that's actually a very good question, because apparently they're not getting it yet. And that's because of tons of these videos and these songs that are out there really way too uncensored for the radio and the television, which is where you see them or hear them and all this stuff. And in movies and stuff, it's not as bad because you buy the movie and it gives you warning beforehand that there's content in the movie. And on TV, it has a little thing up in the corner where it tells you this is for TV 14 or whatever. But that doesn't really help, especially if it immediately turns on to that song. Like on MTV or VH1, then you might hear that song during a commercial break, or VH1's Top 20 has had a bunch of songs out now that have a lot of inappropriate stuff. I'm not saying it's a bad program. I really like VH1's Top 20. They have some good music videos in there, but they also have some that are not that good. Anyway, so when you're thinking about all this stuff, it's not like my video game rant where I was talking about who's to blame or anything, because basically this one is about who's responsible, which is, I think, different. I mean, it's not really who's to blame. But I mean, I don't want to get into who's to blame again because I had a huge debate that has lasted for quite a while now through emails and stuff with Sister Side of Borderline Grimm since I posted my last video about the effects of video game violence on children and who's to blame on that. So I'm just saying that they should be a little more responsible, and the television programmers and the radio satellite people, they should be more careful with what they're throwing out there for anyone to hear, because anyone could hear it. You can't really tell who's listening or watching or anything like that. So I think that it's stuff like that that's not really that good. Also, I mean, like, when you ask this question, I can understand because of what just happened with it didn't just happen with Justin Bieber and Ludacris, where they teamed up or something. I'm not sure whose idea was that. I don't know if Ludacris wanted younger fans or Justin Bieber wanted fans above puberty. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they were like smoking pot together or whatever. But wait, no, because Justin Bieber's not allowed to play with matches or fire. So I guess Ludacris lent him some of his weed, and then they came up with this great idea to team up. But yeah, so they teamed up, and Ludacris jumped from singing about girls dancing for him and how low they can go to like how crappy his life was as a kid or whatever he sang about. I didn't even listen to it because as soon as I saw who it was, I turned it off. But yeah, like they teamed up and they made crappy music videos, and no one's gonna really care, except that Justin Bieber's some huge hit. I don't get what's the big deal about Justin Bieber. I mean, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Because I've heard like Bieber, I've heard Bieber, I've heard Bieber. I think I've heard Bieber from one person though, so I'm not gonna go by that. But anyway, so people are talking about this kid, and he is a kid. Even if you're gonna say, oh no, he's not. He's like 16 or 15 or however old he is. He's still a kid because one, I don't even think that he's hit puberty yet. Like, I would love to hear one of his songs after his balls drop. It'll be like, there's gonna be one less lonely girl. Like, really crappy, shaky voice, and I would love to hear that. I really would. I would pay money to hear that. But right now, I really don't want to hear him because I get him mistaken with Taylor Swift frequently on the radio. So, yeah, I don't want to hear about Justin Bieber and Ludacris and all that stuff, and that they teamed up is pretty stupid. And then I think that basically what I'm saying is rappers should really not try to express themselves at all to children because they're not that good at it. And when you put it all together, they're kind of not good role models or anything either. I mean, I know that there are good rappers out that are good people too, but there are a lot more who are not. And I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm only saying that they're not good people, like Snoop Dogg. Can you name like more than one song? Like, I think there's only one song I've ever heard from Snoop Dogg that doesn't have swearing in it or any sort of references to not good things, to put it lightly. So anyway, I'm trying to cut down video time, so this is all I have to say about that for now. Anyway, good night.